If you've played this video, then make sure to share it with your friends as well, because the story you're about to hear isn't just a tale, it's a chilling reality that might just steal your sleep. If this is your first time on our channel, give the video a like, subscribe to British Hauntings, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Comment below, "I heard the song, and I can't unhear it." Portland, Oregon was a city of rain and secrets, the kind of place where the mist clung to the streets like a ghost refusing to let go. Most people loved it for its coffee shops and indie bookstores, but if you stayed too long, if you wandered too deep into the old neighborhoods, you started to hear things, like the whispers in the fog. It began for me on a Thursday night, walking home from a bar in Old Town. The air was thick with dampness, the streetlights casting long, wavering shadows. That's when I first heard it, a voice low and rasping, murmuring just behind me. I turned, but the alley was empty, just the usual graffiti, the flicker of a dying neon sign. I froze. The voice wasn't outside my head, it was inside, like someone had slipped a thought into my skull. I shook it off, blaming the whiskey. But the next night, it happened again, this time clearer. I asked around carefully, like you do when you don't want to sound insane. The bartender at the dive on Burnside just nodded. "You've been walking past the White Eagle Saloon, one of Portland's oldest haunted spots, a place where the dead were said to linger, especially the woman in the upstairs room. A musician," they said, "one who never got to finish her last song." That's when the dreams started. A woman in a tattered flapper dress, her mouth moving but no sound coming out, just that same rasping whisper in my ear. When I woke, I stopped walking that route, changed bars, avoided Old Town. But Portland isn't that big, and the fog, it gets everywhere. Last week, I found sheet music on my doorstep, ink-stained, crumbling at the edges, a song called "The Night the Lights Went Out in Portland." I should have burned the sheet music, but something about it, the way the notes curled like smoke, the faint scent of old perfume clinging to the paper, made me hesitate. I told myself it was just some weird prank. Portland had plenty of those, but deep down I knew the humming didn't stop, not in the shower, not with headphones blasting noise rock, not even in my dreams. It was always there, just beneath the sound of rain pattering against my apartment window, a slow, mournful tune, the kind that settles in your bones and stays. I tried to ignore it, but then the lights started flickering. At first it was just my place, a dimming bulb here, a sudden surge there. Then it happened at Powell's, in the middle of the blue room. Every light on the aisle went out at once, and in the silence between the confused murmurs of shoppers, I heard her voice again. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the sheet music spread out in front of me, a half-empty bottle of bourbon keeping me company. My fingers traced the notes. I don't play piano, never had, but my hands moved on their own, hovering over the keys of the old upright I'd bought at a flea market last year. I shouldn't have touched it. The first chord rang out wrong, not just out of tune, distorted, like the piano was rotting from the inside. The second one was worse. The air in the room grew heavy, wet, like the fog outside had seeped through the walls. And then from the hallway the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate. The woman from my dreams stood in the doorway. Her dress was the color of dried blood, her skin waxy under the flickering kitchen light. Her lips parted, and this time the whisper wasn't just in my head. My hands scratched raw, my throat hoarse like I'd been singing for hours. The barista at the 24-hour coffee shop took one look at me and slid a cup across the counter without asking. "You been messing with things in Old Town?" she asked, her voice low. I didn't answer. She leaned in. "They say if you hear the song, you gotta finish it, or she'll find someone else through you." I left the coffee untouched. Now I hear it everywhere, in the rumble of the Max train, in the drip of my leaky faucet, in the static of the radio when I turn it on. The melody is taking shape, and when it's done, the rain hasn't stopped in 3 days. Not the usual Portland drizzle. This is something heavier, thicker, like the sky itself is pressing down on the city. The Willamette is rising, swallowing the East Bank Esplanade, and the news keeps talking about flooded streets, downed power lines. But they don't mention the other things, the shapes moving in the fog, the way the streetlights hum in perfect pitch with her song. I tried to leave, packed a bag, got in my car, and made it as far as the St. John's Bridge before the radio crackled to life on its own. "You can't run from a melody, darling." Her voice slithered through the speakers, and then the bridge lights went out, all of them, at once. In the darkness, I saw her standing in the middle of the road, her head tilted like she was listening to some far-off music. I swerved, nearly went over the railing. When I looked back, she was gone, but the song remained. Now I'm holed up in a dingy motel off 82nd, the kind of place where the walls sweat and the carpet smells like old cigarettes. The sheet music is spread across the bed, the notes shifting when I'm not looking. I've tried to destroy it, lighter fluid, a knife, even tossing it into the parking lot dumpster, but it always comes back, always on the pillow next to me when I wake up. The motel manager knocked on my door this morning. "You the one playing piano at night?" he asked, eyes bloodshot. I told him I didn't have a piano. He just nodded, like he already knew. "Yeah, nobody does." I called a paranormal investigator from some podcast. He hung up after I described the woman's dress. "That's not just a ghost," he said. "That's the ghost, the one they used to call Portland's first song." According to local legend, back in the 1920s, a jazz singer named Lillian Graves performed at the White Eagle. She was supposed to debut a new song, one she claimed came to her in a dream, but halfway through the performance, every light in the building blew out. When they came back on, she was gone. Only her sheet music remained, the final notes smeared like something had dragged her off the page. Now, the song is rewriting itself through me. I can feel it in my teeth when I sleep, humming itself into my dreams. This morning, I woke up with ink-stained fingers, my throat raw. The motel mirror had words scrawled across it, in something dark and sticky. The power went out, across the whole city. Tonight, not just the usual outage. This was different. One block Portland went dark. No alarms, no sirens, just silence, as the streetlights guttered out like candles in a tomb, their static hissing her melody between the bursts of panicked dispatchers. I tried to warn people, posted online, called the news, even stood screaming in Pioneer Square until security dragged me away. Nobody listened, or maybe they couldn't. The ones who've heard the song really heard it. Just stare at me with glassy eyes and hum under their breath. The bartender at the Shanghai Tunnel Bar had the sheet music tattooed across his arms. The barista at Stumptown was writing the notes in steamed milk. They're all waiting for the finale. The motel TV turned itself on an hour ago. Just snow and that voice whispering, "You left out the best part." Then the screen showed the White Eagle, its doors swinging open. Despite the chains wrapped around them, shadows moved inside, not people shapes, swaying to a rhythm I could almost make out. My hands won't stop moving. They tapped the walls, my knees, the air, always tracing those damned notes. I can feel the song unspooling inside my skull, stitching itself into my synapses. I tried cutting the melody from the sheet music, but the ink bled right back into place. A knock at the door. Not the manager this time. 3 figures stood in the rain, a taxi driver with his meter still running, a teenager in a soaked hoodie, and an old woman clutching a moth-eaten flapper's headband. Their mouths moved in unison. "She wants you to lead the chorus." I slammed the door, locked it, barricaded it with the dresser. But the humming's louder now, coming from the vents, the pipe, my own pulse. I'm writing this on the motel notepad because my phone died an hour ago and won't turn back on. The pen keeps writing notes instead of words whenever I blink. Outside, something splashing through the flooded parking lot. They're coming. I can see them through the curtains, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, wading through the black water with their heads tilted like they're listening to some invisible conductor. And at the front, a woman in a rotting dress, her arms outstretched, The rain's stopped. The whole city's holding its breath. I think the encore's about to begin. The silence before the storm is the loudest sound I've ever heard. I can feel the city trembling, not from an earthquake, but from something deeper, something hungry. The streets are empty, but not quiet. The air thrums with the vibration of 1,000 whispered notes, all harmonizing with her song. The crowd outside the motel hasn't moved. They just stand there, swaying slightly, their faces tilted toward the sky like they're waiting for a cue. The woman in the rotting flapper dress stands at the center of them all, her skeletal fingers curled as if gripping an invisible microphone. My hands won't stop shaking. I tried to barricade the door, but the wood started bending, warping into strange musical symbols, the grain twisting into sheet music. The walls are sweating ink. My reflection in the mirror isn't mine anymore. It's hers, mouthing the words I've been too afraid to sing. The radio just crackled to life on its own. A single phrase hissed in a voice that wasn't quite human. Last chance, darling. I don't know what happens if I refuse, but I know what happens if I give in. I've seen the visions in my sleep, the streets of Portland drowned in something darker than water, the buildings crumbling into dissonant chords, the people frozen mid-scream, their voices stretched into endless wailing notes. The song isn't just a ghost story, it's a key, and I'm the one who's been chosen to turn it. The first note claws its way out of my throat before I realize I've opened my mouth. It's not my voice, it's hers, echoing through me like I'm just an instrument she's playing. Outside, the crowd gasp in unison. The streetlights explode in a shower of sparks. The sound that tore from my throat wasn't human. It was something ancient, something that cracked the mirrors and made the motel windows weep black tears. The crowd outside answered in perfect harmony, 1,000 voices singing. I tried to stop singing. I couldn't. My teeth ached. My vision blurred. The room around me wasn't a room anymore. The walls pulsed like a throat. The carpet writhed like a tongue. The song was rewriting reality itself, turning Portland into its instrument. Then silence. A single suspended note. The woman looked at me, her hollow eyes gleaming. Now the finale, she whispered. My hands moved on their own, reaching for my chest. I realized too late what the song needed to complete itself. A last dying note from me. The crowd outside leaned forward, hungry, and as my fingers curled around my own ribs, I finally understood. Portland wasn't haunted by a ghost. The last thing I heard wasn't screaming. It was applause, slow at first, a single pair of skeletal hands clapping from the shadows of the White Eagle's stage. Then more, hundreds, thousands. The sound rose like downpour on a tin roof as Portland's audience revealed themselves in the flickering afterglow of the final chord. They weren't ghosts, they were reviewers. The woman in the flapper dress curtsied as the standing ovation shook the ruins of the city. The Willamette had receded, leaving behind glistening musical notations carved into the riverbed. Burnside Bridge now arched in perfect quarter notes. The remnants of Powell's books fluttered in the wind, every page blank except for the sheet music crawling across them like spiders. I can feel the song where my heartbeat used to be, each measure pumping through veins turned to staff lines. My fingers leave notes on everything I touch. The few survivors wandering the streets don't see me anymore. They just hum absently as they pass through me, their eyes glazed with the aftertaste of our performance. The woman, Lillian, I know her name now, whispers to me. As we stand atop the ruined spire of the U.S. Bancorp Tower, encores are for amateurs, darling. We make art that lasts. She's right. The song's already spreading. I heard a businessman in Seattle humming it yesterday. A TikTok from Phoenix showed a barista steaming the melody into latte foam. The static between radio stations sounds suspiciously like our bridge measures. And the strangest thing, I don't want to stop it. The applause still echoes in my hollow chest. The stage lights are rising on new cities, and everyone's a critic. Portland doesn't sleep anymore. It plays. The rain taps staccato on broken windows. The Max trains screech in perfect pitch. Even the drunks in Chinatown stagger to the rhythm, their slurred words forming lyrics they don't remember writing. I walk the streets most nights, trailing sheet music like cigarette smoke. Sometimes I see Lillian on the rooftop of the Crystal Ballroom, conducting the wind through power lines. Other times I catch my reflection in puddles, a man made of clef signs and rest, the hole in my chest where the final note exited, still vibrating. They opened the White Eagle again last week. The line stretches around the block every night. Nobody remembers why they're waiting, only that they need to get inside. Those who make it past the bouncer, a tall figure with piano keys for teeth, say the house band sounds unreal, that the singer's voice gets inside your bones, that you leave humming a tune you can't quite place. I stood outside Voodoo Donut yesterday, watching tourists take selfies. One girl's phone glitched when she tried to capture the Keep Portland Weird sign. The image came out warped, with musical notes swimming in the background like eels. She laughed and posted it anyway. 3 million views in 6 hours. They're calling it a filter. I know better. The song's learning new